Welcome to SCOE Teacher Induction's overview of CSTP5, Assessing Students for Learning. The primary foundation of teacher induction is to support each participant's growth toward mastery of the 6 CSTP. You have chosen to focus on CSTP5, and today's presentation will provide an overview of the standard and its 7 elements. The purpose for today's session is to deepen your understanding of CSTP5 and to increase awareness of your own teaching practice within it. Following this activity, you will work with your mentor to identify evidence from your own practice and consider where that evidence places you along the continuum of development. Our primary tool for self-reflection and self-assessment in the program, the Continuum of Teaching Practice, recognizes that teachers just out of their preliminary program will likely begin their first year within the emerging level. This is appropriate and does not represent a deficit, but rather a starting place for your professional journey. We invite you to embrace your current placement on the continuum and to actively seek to work toward meaningful next steps within your own professional growth journey. As teachers gain experience, they will show growth within the CSTP and deepen their practice and understanding of the standard and each element. If you are joining us with multiple years of teaching experience, you will also find the Continuum of Teaching Practice a useful tool to measure your current practice. The continuum is meant to serve as a self-assessment tool for the life of the teacher's professional journey.
Standard 5 of the California Standards for the Teaching Profession guides teachers in assessing students for learning. The first element of CSTP5 focuses on applying knowledge of the purposes, characteristics, and uses of different types of assessments. New teachers are aware of the purposes, characteristics, and possible biases of formative and summative assessments. They are aware of accommodations and modifications for assessments as outlined in individual students' IEPs. As they gain experience, teachers explore using different types of assessments, including pre-formative and summative assessments. They identify the different types of information provided by each form of assessment. Teachers understand that pre-assessments yield information about student preparedness, formative assessments provide data about student progress, and summative assessments evaluate proficiency. Teachers also minimize bias and begin to identify the specific purposes of accommodations and modifications for state and local assessments. As teachers continue to grow in their application of CSTP5, they identify the purpose for assessments and select appropriately matched pre, formative, and summative assessments. They also select appropriate and legal accommodations for state and local assessments. CSTP Element 5.2 focuses on collecting and analyzing assessment data from a variety of sources to inform instruction. Early in their career, new teachers most often use data from required assessments to assess student learning. They follow district and program guidelines for analyzing results and drawing conclusions about student progress. As they move further into their initial teaching experience, teachers explore additional assessments, analyze the data, and use the information to modify and adjust their instructional planning. Over time, teachers refine their assessment practices as they collect a variety of formal and informal assessment data and use what they learn about student progress to inform planning and differentiate their instruction. CSTP Element 5.3 focuses on reviewing data, both individually and with colleagues, to monitor student learning. In the emerging level of CSTP 5.3, teachers review and monitor available assessment data as required by site and district processes. They recognize that Individual Family Service Plan, or IFSP goals for infants and toddlers, and Individual Education Program, or IEP goals, are based on data, and that services are provided in the least restrictive environment. As teachers become more familiar with assessment practices, they review and monitor additional assessment data to identify learning needs of the range of students in their classroom and expand their knowledge about how IFSP IEP goals are developed. As they continue to strengthen their assessment practices, teachers regularly monitor a variety of student assessment data, including formative and summative data to identify trends and patterns among groups of students. They continue to systematically review data for evidence of educational benefit for all students. In preparation for a discussion between you and your mentor that will follow in the next slide, please pause the video for a minute to review and consider what has been presented to this point. As you think, jot a few notes. Please review the prompt, reflect upon it, and discuss with your mentor. Once you've had time to reflect, restart the video and review the final 4 elements of CSTP5. CSTP Element 5.4 focuses on using assessment data to establish learning goals and to plan, differentiate, and modify instruction. New teachers are aware of the importance of using data from assessments provided by site and district to set learning goals for the class. With more experience, teachers use data from available assessments to establish content-based learning goals and plan adjustments in instruction to address the learning needs of individual students. As teachers extend their knowledge of assessment practices, they analyze a variety of assessment data to set learning goals for content and academic language. Teachers also strengthen their practice by differentiating lessons and intentionally modifying their planned lessons based on formative assessment data and the needs of their students. CSTP Element 5.5 focuses on involving all students in self-assessment, goal setting, and monitoring progress. New teachers inform students about lesson objectives, outcomes, and summative assessment results, and monitor student progress. As teachers gain experience and have the opportunity to reflect on the needs of their students, they begin to encourage students to establish learning goals through goal-setting lessons and provide some opportunities for students to monitor their own progress. As they enrich their assessment practices, teachers model and scaffold student self-assessment and goal setting. They also guide students to monitor and reflect on their own progress on a regular basis. CSTP Element 5.6 focuses on using available technologies to assist in assessment, analysis, and communication of student learning. New teachers use available technology to record assessments, determine proficiency levels, and communicate about student learning. As teachers have more frequent opportunities to reflect on their assessment practice, they may explore the use of additional technology to implement individual assessments, to record results, and to communicate with administration, colleagues, and families about student learning. As teachers refine their use of technology, they explore its use for designing and implementing individual assessments, for recording and analyzing results, and for communicating with administration, colleagues, and families about student learning. CSTP Element 5.7 focuses on using assessment information to share timely and comprehensible feedback with students and their families. New teachers provide students with feedback about their assessed work and required summative assessments. They also notify families about students' proficiencies, challenges, and behavior issues through school or district-mandated procedures. As teachers reflect on their assessments and related feedback, they provide students with additional feedback based on formative assessments and seek to provide feedback in ways that students understand. They communicate with families about student progress, strengths, and needs at reporting periods and as the need arises for struggling students. With experience, teachers refine their assessment practices by providing students with clear and timely information about strengths, needs, and strategies for improving academic achievement. They provide opportunities for comprehensible and timely two-way communications with families to share student assessments, discuss progress, raise issues and concerns, and guide family support. In preparation for discussions that will follow between you and your mentor, pause the video for a minute or two to review and consider what has been presented to this point. As you think, jot a few notes, and then discuss with your mentor. Review the prompt. Consider your possible responses, and then discuss with your mentor. Please take a moment to consider these quotes and what they mean within your practice and CSTP5.
Thank you for your time today as we reviewed CSTP5, Assessing Students for Learning. Now that you have a deeper understanding of the depth and richness of CSTP5 and its elements, You will work with your mentor to identify where your current practice is using the continuum of teaching practice. This deep dive into Standard 5 will support you in determining the most appropriate next step in your own professional growth journey.